So 9 expenses that I cut back in 2024 came to £9,500 that I managed to save just by being slightly more careful. And
You're joking.
The problem is your spending. 99.99% of the time, the problem is your spending.
How did you identify the 9?
So my mum and dad, they're lovely people, but they never taught me the value of a pound. And they're spenders. It's just ingrained into them. That was ingrained into me. I just saw material things I should put my money towards when it came in. And I got myself in a big hole. I was like, oh, I'm 24 grand in debt right now.
Is it mainly credit card debt and overdrafts?
Mainly a few personal loans, a couple of payday loans, which ended up biting me.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. I was in, and interest coming out my basically.
So this week I'm speaking with my friend Sammie Ellard-King, founder of Up the Gains, which is an online financial education platform aiming to take financial education to the masses. Sammie has cultivated an incredible community online after sharing his own experience going from over 24 grand in debt to an investment portfolio well over 160 grand.
I'm an everyday guy. I'm not financially trained. I've spent 10,000 hours learning about this stuff.
Yeah.
I would never do that again, ever. But I came out of it and it has changed my life forever. I knew deep down I was meant for more.
If someone listening today could take just one thing away to begin improving their financial situation, what would you tell them?
Yeah. So
welcome, brother. How are you?
mate, I'm great. I've been looking forward to this one.
I know. And you've been nagging me as well. And thank you. I've been such a pain because I've been wanting to sit down and chat to you for so long.
Yeah. It's one of them things that I think you were like one of the first creators when I first started looking at doing this. And then I came across you guys. And you were like, I was like, oh my God, those guys are so sick. And then when you launched the pod, I was like, one day that's going to happen. We're going to make that happen. So we're manifesting. And
oh my God, mate. No, it's incredible to have you. And obviously, one thing some people might remember is that I actually came on your podcast about over a year ago now, over a year and a half ago.
18 months, I think. You were like episode 7.
It's crazy. I remember that. That's mad.
Yeah.
And to see where you're at now, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's been explosive, man, and it just goes to show that like so many people need this stuff.
Yeah,
and it's just like we all have a part to play in it as well. That's what I've come to find is that like the way that I teach, how I teach, and the way that some of the other creators teach how they teach is completely different.
Yeah,
and who you resonate with is totally cool. We're not in competition. It's a mission to basically change how people actually interact with money, which is just such a big topic. There's 47 million adults in this country, and 90% of them probably need some help. So it's a lot of work.
It's so true, and there's a reason there's so much engagement when it comes to the conversation of money, and I think it's actually just going to keep increasing for like our generation. We've always said that the reason people kind of like resonated is because as like young people, it's funny because when we started we used to say young people a lot. Now I don't know how long we can still keep claiming that, right? But I'm going to claim it, right? But generally, like our generation and younger broadly have a very unique experience of money. We're digitally native. We don't have the same like opportunities in terms of like, I guess, more matured, older assets that people relied on, but we have loads of other opportunities as well. So people are just flocking to creators of all kinds just to learn a lot more. Your attitude has always been really, and I think the attitude of the creator community within the money niche in the UK has always been really supportive, which is great because I think UK as a whole has loads of haters, but the creator community, I've noticed everyone bands together and realizes that there's a positive benefit to the nation, really.
I've never seen it like that ever in any other industry. Like you always have competitors even in the hospitality space where I was before running businesses there. Like your next door neighbor is like arch enemy, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
But in the creative space where we are, it's like everyone bands together, everyone champions each other, shares each other's content with their friends. If they can't answer something, they're introducing you, and it's like, what's going on? Like,
it's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
Long may it continue as well, because like even like little things like client work, brand deals. When people can't take them, they're like, "Do you want to take this?" Which is unheard of in a lot of other communities. So
share and wealth, man.
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually talking and acting on some of the stuff that we talk about. Your personal journey though has been really interesting, and I think there's a reason a lot of people warm to you because you're no nonsense. And you're very honest about your own experiences. And I think a lot of people, when it comes to money, when they make a bit of money, I think they start to believe in their own source a little bit too much, and they talk down on people. And I think that's one of the things I've noticed with your content and your own journey. you've never fallen into that trap. I think you've always led with, listen, this is what I was like. This is actually the position I was in, and this is where I am now. Why can't it be you? And I've sat and I've watched a lot of your videos that have that tone, and it's like, so why can't it be anyone down the road? If they actually think about or want to learn, they can make quite a big change in their lives. But your starting position was 24 grand in debt, not that long ago.
No, 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's like I turned up at uni day one, and they said, "Here you go. Here's a student overdraft and a credit card." And my mum and dad, they're lovely people, but they never taught me the value of a pound. And you know, they're spenders, and you know they always will be. That's just ingrained into them. That was ingrained into me. I just saw material things as something that I should put my money towards when it came in, and it just grew. You know, I just funded debt on debt on debt from university, moving back to London, you know, getting into the lifestyle of like going out 247, 365, as you do in your 20s, but like without the like financial responsibility that some people have like naturally ingrained into them. I just didn't. And I got myself in a, you know, a big hole. But luckily, like my friendship peer group was very entrepreneurial, did very well for themselves, very like moving up the chain. We were all quite senior for our age, well, extremely senior for our age in terms of like the peer group that we were in. A lot of, you know, heads of or directors at, like, you know, 25, 26, 27, which is kind of unheard of. And we always say like our friendship group was like how
happening?
Yeah, like how are we all mates? Because like we're all doing good. And I think because I was part of that group, I wanted to kind of keep up with them. And so that was kind of feeding into it a touch. And then it came out like, you know, I was nowhere near. A friend of mine said to me, you know, I'm going to probably need about 1.5 million quid to like actually continue living the life that I wanted to lead if I retired.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, oh, I'm 24 grand in debt right now.
That's
and
crazy.
I basically hadn't told anyone about the debt. And just even being open and honest, I hadn't even told family. I had a girlfriend at the time. She didn't even know. So I'd kept it all back, and then it all came flooding out too.
How long did it... So from uni, you start working. A lot of people are in a similar position. Actually, when Shaq and I started Millennial Money, we both talked about how our starting point was debt. And then similar to you, and then it was working our way out of that to then... But it's crazy how quickly you can go from that position to way further down the line. We can touch on that later. But how long did it take you to amass that amount of debt after uni?
So it's a sort of culmination of about 7 years of sort of just on top of each other. Eventually,
it just creeps up each month, right? So you're going out. I'll
get paid more, and you take on more debt because they gave you more debt, and so you're like, awesome, you know, just up my credit limit. That means I'm going.
Was it mainly credit card debt and overdraft?
Mainly a few personal loans, a couple of payday loans, which ended up biting me.
Really?
Wow. I was in, and you know, interest coming out my arse basically, and it was like, basically, paycheck was covering vast majority was interest.
No way. Wow.
Yeah, so there wasn't much of a like way out at the time. So I had.
You must have felt trapped at that.
You do, and it's so like. But the first piece with debt is awareness. Like no one goes through that period. They do that whole head in the sand thing, and you can't force it out of someone either. That's what I've come to find. Like having taught this stuff now for like nearly 8 years, it's you cannot make someone accept they are in debt. It happens to them when it happens to them. But you have to make sure that you know what it is and where it's going to be able to actually go, okay, I'm moving in this pathway rather than that pathway.
What was your moment where you were like, I need to sort this out?
I was on a beach in Vietnam.
Getting yourself into more debt.
Paid for by a credit card. So to go there, and that was when my mate of mine did this whole thing to me, and he was like, you know, when do you want to pass away? And I said 80 would be nice. He said, well, when do you want to retire? I said 50, you know, sort of throwing a number out there. And then he just was like, okay, well, how much are you spending per year? Times that by 30. Do you have that? And that number was like, you know, 1.5 million quid. And I was like, wow, okay. Then he just like, it was like a light bulb went off inside my head. And then I basically came back from that trip and started diving into like actual conversation of money.
Wow.
And, you know, a lot of Americans. And that was the sort of initial sort of founders of Up the Gains, really, which was like, this is really tough to understand. And also there was only really Martin Lewis in the UK, right? and Martin does a fantastic job, but wasn't really right for what I needed to know. So I was like, there's a gap here, and I started just picking up, and then slowly started writing about it, and that audience grew, and people sort of just started jumping on, and it's sort of gone from there.
Mad, isn't it? And obviously Martin Lewis, huge, has done an amazing job and like really popular with our parents' generation as well. And I think one of the things that we learn is that our generation and younger kind of like to hear from people that are a bit like themselves.
Exactly.
Similar experiences. Martin's great, right? Mm-hmm. And he explains the same things, but it's just like feels like I'm being nagged by an uncle or a parent or something, right? And I think that's one of the people don't like being, even if they're not being patronized, they don't like to be talked down on. And I found my moment as well was when I was just like, it was actually talking to Shaq, my co-founder. I think we went out one day and I was just like, bro, like, are you doing all right? Like, money-wise, like, we're both doing really well in our careers for our age at the time. He was like, nah, man, I've got a credit card bill that I can't seem to get down each month.
Yeah, London.
Yeah, like literally London, London.
Yeah.
And then payday will come and you forget about that conversation, and it's just that vicious
minimum payment.
Yeah, it's literally a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it is.
But it was that first conversation with a mate where I'm like, oh, it's not just me. And then
communication, bro.
Exactly. And then we started talking about it, and loads of people messaged us like, oh my god, like, me too. And like loads of our mates everyone assuming that other people are doing really well and they're the only ones in trouble. It's never that way.
No.
It's never that way. And obviously we struggle to speak up about these things. And I think that's what kind of like blew the casket out. We were like, okay, a lot of people are in this position. I think we just needed to create a safe forum for communicating that initially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what like I think resonated with you, because I was like, when I first saw you guys, and I was like, okay, they're coming at this from like, I've been here, and like you're not alone. Let's put my arm around you and like let's walk this path together.
Yeah,
which is super cool.
Yeah,
and I think that's why people relate to myself as well, because I just say like I'm an everyday guy. I'm not financially trained, but I've read every book, done every course, and watched every YouTube video under the sun. I've spent 10,000 hours learning about this stuff, and I live and breathe it because I love it. You could put a financial advisor in the room. Yes, they might know the technicalities of draw down on your pension and, when you're 64 versus when you're 65. But I'll tell you how to get to that position and actually have some cash there to do that type of stuff. So whereas, traditional financial advice is quite restrictive in a lot of ways. So, that's the game we play. People like learning from people. They look at them and go, oh, like, he's just like a chap. Me. Like, I like that, and really interestingly, we have 56% women audience.
Do you know what? We've always had more of a female audience as well,
which I really like.
Yeah,
because it just means that like I'm not like coming across as laddie. As it's relatable.
There was some interesting insights into that, is because women are much more considered with their decision making.
Totally.
And if you think about the advertising for male-led products, right, like trading targets men, they make it almost like sports-like, gambling-like, right? And the advertising targets men in that way. And because they assume, and probably is the case to somewhat, that men are easier to convince to make what seems like more excitable decisions. And women are much more, no, I need to understand this. Which is why they say as well, women that actually apply themselves are much better investors than men. Yeah,
so it's like 0.5% to 1.5% depending on how long you look, which over a period of time, if you compound that, is a hell of a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Yeah. It is a lot of money. Yeah. We'll come on to the investment bit shortly as well, but I just wanted to sort of touch on what were your biggest challenges when you were in debt? Starting out and beginning. So now, like, you got yourself into shit, right? And you know that you need to sort it out. And you kind of know how to sort it out. Now you're starting. But obviously initially, like, it's baby steps. What were your biggest challenges at the start? Yeah, it's like realizing that there's going to be some sort of sacrifice, and usually that means social life. And so I was like, okay, I looked at it, and actually with my income, if I cut back certain things with my social life, I still wanted to keep a little bit of my social life in there, because life's for living after all. And I'm in my 20s. These are my like golden years to really grow as a person. So I looked at it, and it was like 7 and a bit years
to get out. And
of debt, get out of debt entirely.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa, that's like early 30s. Like, that's not okay for me. So I was like, how do I really like speed up that process? And I'd always started side hustle businesses. I was selling G-Unit t-shirts at 16 in school, man.
Come on.
Avirex jackets, shot jackets. Like, I was the guy, if you wanted like American clothes, I was getting them over in bulk in eBay and then selling them to people from different schools around there. You know, literally like old school 10p text, phone blowing up. Like, we'll meet you for an Avirex jacket.
It's like a trap line, but for clothes.
Yeah, it was, man. And it was a lot of fun. But like, I always had that kind of like spark to go out and make money. Like, I was trainer reselling, and I turned that back on. I was doing that a lot at uni, and I turned that back on. So I started looking for ways of like bringing in cash, and side hustles was just like the number one way I could do that. So I would literally do everything. I was freelancing in the evenings. I was taking on like social media clients if I could, you know, on short-term and long-term contracts, you know, £200-300 a month just to like post a few. Back then it was just like images that you could just knock up and put out. It was so easy. And like brands don't want to do it. So it's like they just pay some guy to do it for £200-300 quid. Like, yeah, that's just like a thing off my plate kind of thing. So, you know, and you get some results and then you get some more clients, and that built up. And what I managed to do was just shorten it down to 18 months. So I'm out in 18 months.
From 7 years?
Yeah. Yeah. It was wild, man. So it was just like floodgates on of like bringing in money from multiple different sources. Like,
you were just like, I'm locked in. I need to sort my life out.
Yeah. And actually, like, really interestingly, when I went into that kind of business focused mindset, I attracted and made loads of friends by doing that. Yeah. Because you sort of start in like, your circle changes in and around you. Yeah. And so like, I was going to all these cool things and doing all this cool stuff. And I was like, wow, this is like amazing. And it's actually really good fun. Yeah. Plus I'm like actually benefiting my life. Yeah. And so, 18 months, 24K, it was gone. And like, and that was my like opportunity moment. It was like, okay, I'm at zero now. Like,
which way do I go?
Yeah. I can either go back to the old me, just whacking credit cards and like basically keeping up with the Joneses and buying designer gear and just like thinking I'm the shit, which I'm definitely not. Yeah. Like, and that's the way I was acting. And just going through that 18-month period just like changed me. Yeah. Like the psyche of me. I just had this like.
Yeah. I remember when I was in that journey getting myself out of debt, I had this spreadsheet and like I could see where I was going to be months in advance, and it just became a game I was playing with myself. Yes. It was gamified almost. Exactly. I was like, oh, I'm almost there. And like, if I get a bit extra, like, and then it is so like, it's so funny because obviously I've come such a long way since then. But thinking back to how much of a difference it made to my life when I was debt free is incomparable. Yeah. More than like having a 6-figure investment portfolio and etc.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like the next phase is security. Yeah. So like you get to that point, how do you secure yourself before you even start thinking about investing or like doing anything else? How can I like secure myself so this never happens again? Yeah. So like that was my number one priority. I was like, right, I need 15K in an emergency fund. Like, that was my next target, and I just went hard on that. And so like I just kept reframing the goal. And then it was like, okay, well, what's next? Well, okay, let's go and start a business. Let's go and do this. Let's go and do that. And it really is a growth mindset. Like that's how we can really change the course of our life. Like if you start thinking, well, if I do these things, that could pay off into that later down the line. Yeah. It's going to pay off exponentially for you if you're doing that in multiple spheres. Yeah. And so that's really what I did. And it's just sort of, you know, went and it's now put me in this position where I am today. So everyone can do that, but that security phase is right. And you're so right. Gamify apps, gamify everything. Yeah. Because we're creatures of habit. Yeah. And we love that, like, quick win. Yeah. You know, like, well done, man. Yeah. And I also say now as well, like, layer on something to that. So once you've hit your goal, you're going to take your mum out for a nice, like, bit of lunch or something, or, you know, your loved one or whatever that might well be, or something that's cool for you. Like, we're going to book that trip or whatever, something, you know, weekend break, you know, spa break, whatever. Like, because it's like a layer from a layer, and you're also getting an accountability partner involved with it. So like, when I do this, mum, I am going to take you for lunch. Then she's like, when you're taking me on that lunch?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then you're
yeah.
like,
I need to
do the
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And then it's like, gives you that little extra spur, like, and then you show up different, and you do really move the goalpost. You like want to do it faster than you set yourself.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So you got to 0. Obviously, like there was a point that you were -24. You got to 0. Obviously, now we know where you are. But there's a huge point in between. And how did you then? Did you actually follow the conventional route of I'm going to do my emergency fund, then I'm going to look at short to medium term, then I'm going to look at my long term investments?
Yeah.
Were you that linear with it?
No.
Yeah.
No. I say that because it's just very easy for people to understand, but a lot of people, they get to these points and they're like, okay, I don't have an emergency fund, but I'm pretty good with money and I want to like do these things. In those cases, I say, right, like start moving towards multiple goals at once because they're all going to pay off. And if you're not going backwards. So what I actually did was I just got a couple of months of pay locked up.
Yeah.
Which was about 5K.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, cool, I'm happy with that now.
I did the same. Good starting point.
Yeah. It's like a
depending on your risk appetite, it's a great starting point. And to be honest, for a long time, I'd leave my emergency fund at 5K and just flipping yeet the rest into investments.
I get it. A lot of people do. And so what I did was basically went to like, say, let's say I'm saving £100. I went to £50 in emergency fund, £50 into investments. Yeah. Or, you know, you could do £33 emergency fund, £33 short-term savings, £33 investments. And then as that emergency fund gets bigger, those allocations change. So people think they have to be so rigid. Like, I have decided that £100 is going towards this. Yeah. But then life changes on you.
It does, yeah.
And so you need to be ready for that. Seasons of life, personal finance is personal to you. No, like you can't look at the other guy and be like, that's what I need to do. It has to be for you and like what's important to you in that moment. And like security is for everyone, because anyone that we've ever worked with, you know, for our coaching and stuff like that, as the moment they get an emergency fund together, they're like, this is the best feeling in the world.
It's just safety,
no matter than
right?
having £1 million in investments, it's that like
safety.
I don't have to answer to an arsehole boss. I could leave my other half if he's not the right person for me. I have those choices now. And like I always encourage couples to have their own emergency fund, and then you have your own individual ones as well, because you never know what life will swing at you.
It's so true. It's your personal insurance policy, right? And the mental relief that you have knowing that you have that is crazy. It actually makes you a better investor because you are much more likely to weather any storms. Totally. Because you're not like, this is my everything right now, you know? And I've seen it myself, like where there's certain instances where I would have been spooked by the markets that we've experienced over the last few years.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. That's why like multiple goals. Definitely always have a short-term savings goal, like things you need this year, so Christmas, holiday, like car insurance, like put into, you know, use Monzo pots or whatever you want to do, or an equivalent of that, and start stacking that money. That's your short-term savings. You're moving towards that, as well as perhaps maybe saving for a house, as well as your investments at the same time. It just means that the allocations you choose are based on importance to you in that phase of your life.
Yeah, so a big part of it, and you touched on it slightly there, it's a huge part of it is mindset, isn't it?
100%. 80% of money management is mindset. Yeah, I've said that today in a newsletter. That
I got
that. I went a little bit hard today because I feel like a lot of people, they say, oh, well, you know, I tried to do this thing. I really tried. And I'm like, how long did you try for? And they go, you know, a month. And I go, cool. Yeah. Well, like that's your issue there, because you've got to build up a habit. It's 90 days and an absolute minimum for that to really set in. So that's 3 pay cycles. So do it for 3 months and then let's chat again. And most of the time the problem comes down to their spending. And that is usually to do with the way that they think and manage their money, which is all up here. Like it's just mental capacity. Yeah. You know, I need to do X because TikTok is telling me that I need a thing, or I need the £600 car a month because my neighbour just bought a brand new Audi and we can't have that. We've got to get the 24 plate now. And I see it all the time, right? And we put ourselves in these situations and then we turn around and say, hey, I can't save and I can't invest. I'm like, mate, look at your driveway. That's just telling me everything. You know, you and these are the way that we've been raised up, like debt is thrust upon us and it's seen as like a good thing.
Yeah.
But actually it's just really often is holding you back.
So how do you, and I'll come on this afterwards as well, like how do you deal with the sudden shifts in your circumstances and still maintain consistent mindset? And maybe that's a two-parted question, because your mindset changes in different periods, right? Because you said when you were in debt, it was all about getting out of debt, and then it was about security. Next stage, it's not freedom, or next stage is
maintenance.
Maintenance, and then financial freedom at some point.
Yeah. So 3 buckets of wealth is protection. Maintenance is actually like your compounding. You can put your sort of midterm savings in that as well as your investments. And then abundance is the top one, and that's where you can like turn the tap. And make exponential growth.
And you've operated obviously, and abundance is a continuous one. So let's say that you're on your way with abundance, right?
Essentially, what you're looking for from abundance is that like, I want to change my life in the next 5 to 10 years. I want it to be like completely different to what it is now. And that's usually starting a business, investing into some higher risk things that potentially have the potential to grow and 10x, but you know, your maintenance bucket is the large portion of what you do. And that just ticks over, and that's going to, you know, hopefully pay off for you in the 30 to 40 years that it takes for compounding to actually do anything. But yeah, like if you want to change your life 5 to 10 years, you have to think of both. And we spend so much time in protection and maintenance.
We forget about
abundance.
Yeah. And how do you control your mindset? And I'd give you a funny example for me, right? Because it's never linear, and I'm not always sensible, and that's one of the things about the brand that we built. And my personal brand is, I'm like, listen, if it was up to me, I'm an idiot, right? I make every mistake there is. But I know that, and that's why I've been learned to control it.
I mean, still making mistakes.
Oh, 100. This is so funny because you can probably track this in some of our videos. I remember like a couple of years ago, making decent money. I'm doing all right. I was like, I was wearing some designer clothes on camera. And which is why you see I'll never do that anymore. Like I wear plain clothes. I don't need to.
I've gone
do that.
Neutral.
And that's most of my wardrobe now. But I remember I was on a podcast and I think I was just wearing like a Burberry top.
Right.
And someone was like, I really like what he's saying, but who does he think he is, wearing a £500 t-shirt telling us how to spend our money? And I remember sitting back thinking,
got a point.
Yeah, I'm the dickhead there. like I'm the one that's lost. And he does have a point. And why was I doing it? Just because I thought I'd come into a surplus of money, and why not? You know.
But also, there's like the peacocking element, and like we want to feel good, and sometimes we think that those purchases make us feel good, and that's totally cool.
It's true, and you have to interrogate that yourself. And it took a period of me interrogating that myself. I had to prove to myself that I'd reached the status that I'd earned because I'd worked so hard.
Totally.
And now I could not care less. Honestly, I could not care less. But there was a period where I was like, I needed to prove to myself that I'd got to this position. Which is funny. Have you ever had anything like that?
Mate, you should see my wardrobe. It's just like tucked up. Like, you know, thank God I haven't been able to fit in them over the past few years.
That's because you've been smashing it in with the fitness as well.
Been going hard, man. I've lost nearly 4 stone down now in a year.
It's incredible.
It's crazy, man. But again, like that was like a conscious decision. It's like, okay, I'm growing my wealth, but like I'm not looking after myself. I'm overweight. I'm like, okay, I was like, okay, this is it. They both work together.
It's crazy how hand in hand they go, right?
Exactly.
It's crazy how hand in hand.
Mindset changes everything it does for you. You know, I'm like bending over backwards to build and give myself to other people so they can change their life. So I'm not looking after myself. That doesn't make sense. So but you are right. Like when it comes to this like mindset thing with money, you just have to be, it's a really shit conversation that you have to have with yourself, because you have to like really reflect, and no one enjoys it. It's really difficult to, but just understanding those little spending triggers. Like I always knew that I would buy ASOS deliveries Sunday morning. I'm buying trainers, and like it was a pattern. It's like every time I go out, I get super drunk on a Saturday night, come home, feel sorry for myself and wake up. So putting things like blockers in place, there's apps now like Opal, you can like turn on blockers on certain ads or even your phone during times where you would like overspend or usually do these things. You can see the patterns when you start looking back at these things. and just those blockers in place. And now I have a rule: anything over £100 has to wait 24 hours.
Smart.
99% of the time, I never buy the thing.
It's true, yeah.
I never do it.
It's just the process of like browsing and looking.
And also leaving it in a basket is a little hack, because they send you the little 20% discount, and you're like, actually, I do want it. And now it's cheaper for me. So, you know, it does pay off. And then those little things can make a massive difference to, like, those are over a year can be thousands of pounds that you're saving from impulse spending, because in the city every day we see 10,000 adverts on average with our phone.
So overstimulated.
Now, we obviously subconsciously don't see most of them, but we do see a large portion of them, and they do have an impact on the way that we think and feel. They're designed to do that. And that's why they call it the power of 7 in marketing. You don't see it first. You don't buy it the first time. You've seen that probably 6 or maybe even more times before that you purchase that you're making.
It's funny. It's something that I tell our clients as well. Listen, customer acquisition. It's not going to convert the first time. No. We need to do continued campaigns.
100%.
But I mean, you know that from your background in marketing as well. But there's something that you touched on which is really important, and people should understand, because it's an opportunity to forgive yourself, right?
100%.
The game is rigged, right? We have these primate brains, right, that are designed to operate in certain environments. We are being hacked by like thousands, millions of distractions constantly, and the game is rigged to extract as much money from you as possible, right? And everything from the fact that we now have contactless, which was introduced to encourage us to spend, to make it easier to spend, because the economy needed liquidity, right? And it wanted to encourage citizens to spend more money, and then that was never drawn back, to like the way the advertising industry has been organized to hack your behavior and your impulses. And now with social media, actually like target you at times when you're probably going to be most vulnerable, right? So we were never meant to win this game.
No.
And you're going to make mistakes, right? You're going to trip up.
Totally.
So it's an opportunity to forgive yourself, but to understand that you then have to recognize that and act against your natural impulses, which are being targeted.
Yeah. Like fight the system, you know, that if you can, even if you win half of those battles, you are winning. Yeah. Because, like, as you say, it's rigged against you. Yeah. You're going to make mistakes. There's nobody that's not making any mistakes, especially when it comes to those advertising campaigns. It's just going to happen. Eventually you bite on something. And we do it even, like, on the very quickest thing. Like, we walk into the shop and we see, like, oh, okay, you've got a coffee and a cake. But that's £6. The coffee was £3.90. The cake was £3. So I'm saving 10 pence, but you've just seen it. It's triggered you. And you've made the purchase then. You actually only wanted a coffee. So, like, it happens to us in all realms of life. So we're just always going to fall for some things because convenience. And
convenience is a huge one.
Totally. That's the biggest one that I see. You know, I did a video the other day. So 9 expenses that I cut back in 2024. Okay. And it came to £9,500 that I managed to save just by being slightly more careful. And the results is nuts, isn't it? It's absolutely mental.
How did you identify the 9?
So it was under 9 different categories. So impulse spending. So there was like Amazon, ASOS, Marks and Spencer, my 3 vices essentially. Looking at those and installing that £100 rule. There was things like Sky TV, Ted Baker haircuts, just going to the local barber, you know, like all of these things. And it's like in one purchase, you're like, oh, I've only saved 20 quid. But if you're doing that every 2 weeks, like I was, then, you know, that's £40 a month. The phone, getting a new iPhone every time it comes out, stopping doing things like that. And, you know, food shopping, own brands, all of these things. And it was £9,500. And granted, some of that was like 50-50 with my partner. But even so, you know, I've just reinvested that money into
10 grand. Like, you think of how long it takes to save 10 grand.
Exactly.
In a focused way.
And that's why I say the problem is your spending. 99.99% of the time, the problem is your spending. You are overspending on the majority of things.
It's true. I hate it when I am faced with my own like budget tracker and I'm looking at it. Oh, yep, it's me. I'm the problem. I'm to blame.
And I'm not the guy that's saying like cut back mercilessly on everything and live in a dark room and eat Sainsbury's own beans. Like that sucks, right? I'm saying like move money consciously into the things that provide value in your life rather than the things that are taking from your life. Essentially, like you making a sandwich at home or spending 19 quid on Nando's every day at work. You're doing that out of convenience. Even if you did that twice a week and took a packed lunch 3 times
makes a big difference.
Makes a big difference. If the coffee makes you happy, buy the coffee. It's a £5 problem. But if it's a much bigger problem over a course of a year, you're after the 3-4 grand problems.
The big thing that for me was last year I looked at it because I was like, I can afford this, so I just kept doing the convenience thing, was takeaways. And it was a twofold thing because it was my health and my wallet, but I just thought it was a takeaway. How expensive could it actually be? It was mad. Like, it was mad. I looked, and because of my Uber Eats and deliveries is attached to my Amex. And I went in and I looked through and I was like, this is all takeaways. This is so embarrassing. And when I stopped that, I lost from summer to I lost 10 kilos.
Wow.
I didn't do anything different, by the way.
That's mad, just from eating.
10 kilos.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Because I was smashing takeaways.
Yeah,
it's crazy. You can actually, anyone watching this, you can actually go back and see my videos, and you can look at my face and look at how much it's changed. It's mad. It was 10
you look great, man.
Cheers. I'm a bit puffy at the moment, but it's crazy. And it was takeaways, and it was spending all my money and just like making me a bit lazier, to be honest.
Yeah, it does, because it's like generally not good for you, right?
Yeah.
Depending on what you're eating.
Yeah, I wasn't eating great.
Yeah, there you go. I was there too, man. And that was one of the things, the 9 things. I was 2-3 deliveries a week. Because I was burning the candle at both ends, running the business. I haven't got time to cook. Just order the thing, eat at the desk, carry on. And cutting that back out. And actually what we did was like, we said, me and my partner were like, well, let's just do like 1 every 2 weeks and let's make it a thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like I'm really up for X, Y, and Z type restaurant tonight. Great. Like let's order in, stick a movie on, get some popcorn going, and like we make it a thing now. And it just changes everything. It's just like, okay, I'm saving loads of money and I'm really enjoying the whole experience of takeaway again. So it's just being mindful, man. It's just
true.
Being mindful.
It is.
And as we say, you're never going to win all the battles.
It's true. And it's crazy how much of your life you spend mindlessly and without intention, and once you switch that back on, everything changes.
Totally.
The presence and everything changes as well, and you appreciate everything a lot more. So running a platform like Up the Gains, I know because we have a similar community as well, you learn a lot about people and their behaviors, and you're reminded often, it gives you fresh perspective on things. But what's the most surprising thing that you've learned from your community? So I guess something that they taught you.
That like my way isn't the only way. And that's been really humbling for me, and something that we try and bring across in the way that we speak now. Like you always have to speak to, I'm a big fan when it comes to like doing anything. If you try and speak to many, you speak to none. But if you speak to one, you speak to many. So you do need to...
Say that again. There's a hook right there. I'm going to use that one.
Handing you the TikTok video. What a platter, bro. It's so true, though. But like, eventually that message is not finding the people that sit over here as well. So being way more open to like feedback and understanding that, how Sarah sees the world could be extremely different because she's from a certain place and she has been brought up in a certain way, to completely different to me. Sees money means something completely different to her than it does to me. And, I think that's been really interesting for me to like explore and try and grow. But in the end, you do have to have a philosophy. You do have to have your view. You do have to be opinionated in a certain way. Otherwise, you're just this kind of vanilla guy. And then people don't gravitate to you. So I think it's the conversations that we have behind the camera with the community offline, when we're doing one-on-ones, etc., is being way more open to what's going on in the world.
Okay, no, I really like that. And it's true. I've seen differing attitudes in my own family. like
Yeah.
me and my siblings, like
Totally.
same upbringing, but slight changes in like the way we were or where our family was when I was in a certain age has impacted our attitudes with money and shaped that in a different way. It's crazy how much of an
Friendship
impact it's going to have.
groups,
Yeah.
jobs, the people that you're working with, like who you spend your time with, the 5 people you spend your most time with is your reflection of how you react to money. So if you often want to change that, you probably need to change the people that you hang around with.
Yeah.
And that's like a big thing. And people say it all the time. If you're stuck in the pub 5 nights a week drinking pints and you want to get out of it, you probably need to stop going to the pub. Like you can go to a different pub that just has better people in it that are good for you.
Yeah.
So there's just a way of like flicking those things around. And you're right, like everybody's different with even in your family. And that's why we now push the whole like personal finance is personal. You cannot ever tell someone that this is going to be the right way for you, because there has to be some adaptation for where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's good because it's not a cookie cutter thing. No. And it is, I do like how you do often reiterate that personal finance is personal and it's down to the person and having to adapt it in that way. More on yourself though, like you've built this incredible platform, and obviously I've known about Up the Gains for a good few years, and I remember even going on your website, and I went on it again recently, and it's just crazy how the volume of resources you have now. Yeah. And it's just grown so much. There's a conversation that I don't know if you remember you had with me maybe 18 months ago, and I remember calling you. I think we were on Zoom, and you were giving me some advice, and you were asking for some like tips, and you said to me, "Bro, I'm going monk mode," and that was quite big at the time. You know, the whole concept, I think it was like Iman Gadshi and a few of the others, they were like monk mode. Yeah. And you were saying it, and I was like, I feel the energy. I think you might do it, but is he actually going to do it? And you did it, right? You locked yourself away and you really locked in. And that also actually involved you leaving your career. So you're leaving the security of a career, which requires a lot of courage. And I often talk about this because people always say to me, they're like, what the hell, you still work? I know. But what you did was you really locked in and backed yourself, and it came out the other side. But what was that experience, right? How did you know that it was going to pay off? Because there's a lot, because you have a home, you have a partner, so it's not like it was a small decision that you were making at the time.
No, it wasn't at all. Like I basically said it was a weird thing. Like I literally said to the boys, I was like, boys, I will see you in 6 months. And they were like, what? Like, and I literally archived all my group chats. Like I really went for it. I would never do that again, ever. But I came out of it with a like explosive business, and it has changed my life forever. Yeah. So was that sacrifice worth it? Yes, mentally, it was the most hardest thing I've ever done. Like shutting yourself away from the world and like you're gonna build the thing is not easy to do. If I did it again, I'd definitely do it with other people that were doing it with me, and I think that would make a big difference. But for me, I've always just had this whole like go big or go home, and if I don't follow that in my own head, then, and if I don't show up like that, then you know who am I? And that's the way I see myself. And so like for me to actually go and build the thing that I know is possible, the foundations needed to be set, and all that required was just pure grit and hard work. And it's not for everyone, and I don't suggest it for everyone, but if you do want to build something amazing and great that you're like super proud of, then sometimes, you know, and you know, you can do elements of it without shutting yourself completely away. You know, you say every Sunday I'm going to be, that's it, don't speak to me, I'm locked in, I'm not coming to X, Y, and Z anymore, I'm doing this. And that's an element of it as well. But yeah, no, I was relentless. 5 a.m. wake ups, 1 a.m. finishes, 6 months, and it did nearly break me. But yeah, it paid off.
Did you have any self-doubt in that period?
Yeah, there was periods in that, like, you know, because I sold my hospitality business. So I had a hospitality business with 2 other friends. Sold it just before we had that conversation and went full time. And, you know, I had a buffer period that had started to get low at some points, and suddenly like switched on the afterburners and like pulled yourself out of it. You know, there was a couple of deep conversations with the missus, like, and she was like, "Nah, I back you. I know you're going to do it. Like, I have no question." Yeah. And I was like, wow,
it's crazy what that support can do, right?
Just even hearing that from her, and I was like, okay, like, you know, I'm just going to make this happen. Because the thing is, it's not for me. It wasn't just sort of showing up on Instagram or showing up on YouTube. You know, I was like trying to build a juggernaut, like, you know, websites and socials and podcasts and YouTube all at the same time.
Yeah.
And so it's
because it looked, from people that don't know you, it looked like you had come back and you just exploded out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But obviously, I know that wasn't the case, but it looked like, oh, he's disappeared for a bit, he's come back, and suddenly he's
It's
exploded.
kind of what happened in a way.
Yeah.
Because I like turned everything off. I stopped everything for 2 months. And I really went back to the drawing board and was like, okay, where can I make the most impact in the quickest amount of time? And I'm just going to do that one thing. Because that's what I was doing before. I was doing podcast, YouTube, everything. And it was just like, you know, you're giving 10% of yourself to each thing. So, okay, 100% is going to go towards this. I'm going to nail that. And then I'm going to slowly layer things back on top. And that changed the game. And it was like, you know, I think we had, you know, 3,500 followers last January, but yeah, January 24, and you know we're 197 today.
So I saw it I've seen it from 1,000 to almost 200.
Yeah,
and in no time at all.
It's basically like 14 months.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah,
and as we know, that's not the only thing. The more impressive thing is actually the business behind it, which is the real heart and soul of what goes into it.
We have like 400 plus free guides on pretty much everything you could think of.
Yeah,
and they're all so much free.
Honestly, like I encourage anyone listening to this to go and check out Up the Gains.
Thanks, man.
100%, because it's just tons and tons of really, really good resources. I use some. Like I've gone into it. I mean, like this is So no, genuinely, man, it's really, really good stuff, and like really well written, really well produced, and people should benefit from it.
Oh, cheers.
But going back to like, obviously now you have this foresight, right? If you could chat to the younger version of yourself, and you were to give him one bit of advice, right, with all the foresight that you have, what would you say?
Yeah,
Sammie?
I'd say like follow your dream. I think we give up too quickly and we sort of settle.
Yeah, so true.
And we get the you know, the house, the car, the missus, and we just stay in that corporate role that we've sort of just accepted because we've got a cushy salary, and we give up on our dreams. And what that does is manifest into midlife crisis. That's why you have a midlife crisis.
Well, now there's a quarter life crisis.
Yeah, I've seen this. Yeah. And they say midlife's actually like 38.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I don't need that. yeah, I'm too close.
Yeah.
But that's why these things manifest later in life. Like you stick with the job that you don't like. You stay with the wife that you don't want to actually be with because you've settled, right? And you've given up. And so I think for younger me, I'd just be like, literally be relentless about attacking your dreams as early as you possibly can. And if anyone's listening to this now and feeling like they are, or they think that they're worth, that they can go for more than what they're doing right now, then like Ikigai is the most powerful thing you could possibly do. It's like the purpose of your life, and it's different for everyone. It's the 4 circles that interconnect.
Yeah. Did you do that exercise on yourself?
I did that exercise. Wow. Yeah. I did that exercise when I went and did monk mode. And that was the like, okay, this is it now. Now I know.
Wow.
And it gives you your purpose in life. So you can go and Google that right now.
Yeah.
It's an amazing technique, and it takes like a couple of hours, and it will make you find your purpose in life. And that could be a career change. It doesn't have to be starting a business. Everyone does sort of say it's like start a business with Ikigai, but it doesn't have to be that. It can just be finding that you're in advertising, and actually you want to be in, you know, architecture or whatever that might well be. And okay, cool, now I know that's where I need to be. How do I make a plan to get to that point? Because that's what I love, that's what I want to do, that's going to be my passion, and I'm going to get paid for it. So I really encourage people just to like stay on the course, never give up that dream, because it will pay off eventually. You know, the average successful business owner is 54.
I saw something about there's 20-something-year-olds comparing their success against a 55-year-old or a 60-year-old who's had decades and decades.
You see it like Gary Vee, like shouting at people. He's like, they're like 42. He's like, you are young.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And he's right. He is
Yeah.
right. You've got everything ahead of you. You can always restart.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's something that I would just definitely take. Like, I was settling for the guy that I was being, and for like, basically the class clown out all the time, like thinking that I was the shit. But I knew that deep down I was meant for more, and it just needed me to like actually go and
bro, honestly, it's so refreshing to like hear you say that, and like actually you did something about it. Because I look around and I see like some of the funniest people I know, some of the, like they've just kind of resorted to the comfort of what they have now, because of fear.
It's fear.
Yeah,
it is fear. They say that what you actually want is on the other side of fear.
Yeah,
and it's so true, because like I didn't know this was going to work.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I had an inkling.
Yeah, and
I knew that hard work would probably get you there, but it could still have just not worked.
Yeah, and
like it would I have kept battering away at it? Would I have gone and driven Amazon vans so I could carry on living the dream? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I would have done anything to keep it going. And if it took, 18 months or it took 6 years, I would have got there.
Yeah.
So I think that's what people give up on.
Yeah.
It's that like, okay, it's going to take 6 years. So
yeah, like
you're going to love it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something
we've become really impatient, haven't we?
Yeah.
I think that's
it's social media.
Yeah.
Now. And it's kind of drilled into us. We see that guy, in Dubai, and we aspire to be them weirdly. And, I can tell you now that car's funded with debt.
Yeah, yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true. And I've heard a lot of people talk about that. If someone listening today could take just one thing away to begin improving their financial situation, what would you tell them?
Yeah. So work out your financial freedom number. So it's really simple to do. So you take your aspirational spending per year, and you times that by 25. And now people will look at that and go, whoa, that's massive. A big number.
Yeah.
Well, that's a reality that you need to be aware of. Now it's a bit of a like, oh my God, moment for most people. And I get that. But then once you get there, gamify it backwards. So, okay, what can I do this year to get me to that point? What can I do in the next 5 years? And then every year just like reset that goal and almost make it like a ladder, and just give yourself those opportunities to start climbing up it, and be kind to yourself along the way. Because, I always say this to everyone that we talk to about finances. If you're moving 2 steps in the right direction and you take 1 step back, guess what? You're still moving
a step
forward.
In the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's going to happen to you. Life's going to happen to you. You don't know when someone's going to come up to you in the street and take something from your phone out your hand, and then these moments happen. They're random, and it's just life. So just be prepared for that along the way, and just don't be too hard on yourselves, man.
Oh, I like that. What's Sammie's purpose then? What's Sammie's purpose? I guess this year, let's say.
Yeah. So this year is about, obviously I've put that hard work in, and that's sort of given me some sacrifice. So this year for me is like letting go and putting time back into the people that I need to put time back into, family, etc. We've got, grandparents getting old. We've lost some people in the family recently, and that's really put things in perspective for me. It's like, actually, I would have much rather have spent my time with those guys than doing 18, 19-hour days every day. So, and weirdly, the moment I did that, the moment I spent less time doing the things, actually business exploded even more, because I was being way more intentional. Yeah. And actually the way that I was showing up, because I was spending time with the people that I loved, was actually then paying off on the business side of stuff, because suddenly you're way more empathetic. You're such a better person. And
everything's connected, right?
Totally.
And that's what we forget.
Yeah.
Everything's connected.
And I want to look like Ryan Gosling by the end of the year.
You're well on your way, man. I'm telling you, you're on your way with all that.
I want that.
Getting richer, getting fitter.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
That's the plan this year.
I love that. How is the fitness stuff going?
Mate, I love it. Yeah, I'm doing calisthenics training 4 times a week.
Yeah.
That was some of the money that's been saved, that's been reinvested into that. I've gone hard on like personalized supplements and I'm
wicked
nutrition dialed. I'm really enjoying it.
Well, I got an email from you today saying that you've started the ice baths.
Yeah.
I haven't quite got there yet, but I'm thinking I'm going to do my first one. I'm going to vlog it, because I started vlogging this year as like my challenge. But I haven't done the ice bath yet, but I've heard
Yeah, I'll say like I'm day 4. So it's
I'm day 4 clean.
yeah. But I went to a Wim Hof experience.
Okay, with actual.
No, it's like one of the instructors, the sort of trained instructors. I think there's loads of them now, but like it was a proper full-on experience, like breath work and the ice bath at the end. And like I got home from that, and I was like, I haven't felt like this ever. Like everything's super clear.
The clarity.
My mood is chill. I haven't got that kind of like, because I'm naturally like quite an anxious person, you know.
Jittery.
Jittery, and even when I'm at the computer, like my mind's going like this. And I just didn't have any of that. And I was like,
crazy.
I haven't experienced this for a long, long time. So like, if you do suffer with sort of those things, and breath work and cold exposure can be a massive tool. So I researched it, and then 3 hours later went against my 24-hour rule and spunked on the ice.
But you know what? When it's an investment into your own health, I always say, like, Shaq gets onto me about my gym membership, because it was quite pricey, but it's a nice gym. Yeah, it's a nice gym. Yeah. But I sort of told myself, like, that's, you know, an investment into my health and like wellness as a whole. But I'm the same as you. So when I have big presentations and I'm pitching to people, and if I haven't slept well the night before, one of the things that I do to try and kind of hack that is I go straight into the sauna in the morning, and then I come out and I have a freezing cold shower. It's not the same, but it goes quite a long way of just like...
It does. It makes an enormous difference.
It cuts through the fact that I've had a poor night's sleep, and I have that feeling of just no anxiety and clarity for an extended period. And normally I try to get to my presentation, and then afterwards I'll deal with trying to nourish my body again.
Mate, I am flying now, and it was 10 o'clock this morning.
It's crazy.
So,
and we're shooting in the evening. So
this is like, 7, 8 o'clock, and I'm there. And so this is day 4. So I'm going to challenge myself, man. I'm going to try and go as long as I possibly can. And see how long we can do it, keep it up for.
I love it, man. Honestly, as your mate, I'm just saying, it's really inspiring to see you just progress health, wealth, everything together.
Thanks, man.
And actually just lock in and go for it. Because then I think just your approach, you sort of like, even to me, you're like, well, why can't I do it? Like, why can you not do it? So
yeah, it's inspiring. It's I want to inspire myself, but then I want that to pass down to everybody else as well, if possible.
It's infectious, so
Totally.
so definitely, and there's a responsibility with this stuff as well. I think. To round up, there's a question that we always like to ask all of our guests, and it's just for a bit of loose change from you. A parting thought. It could be anything. It could be a recommendation. It could be something funny. It could be something silly. But just a parting thought for all of our guests. Some loose change from Sammie Ellard-King.
So for me, I think some loose change, a throwaway thing, is like everybody gets caught up with the whole like saving versus investing hype, and it's really easy to like work out a way of just like saving and investing at the same time, and it's called the 5-year rule. So any money that you might need in the next 5 years, so like could be like, I might need it.
Yeah.
You save that money. You don't risk that money at all. And any money that you're happy to contribute to future you, that money gets invested, because essentially 5 years or more is what you need to really get that growth. So yeah, I haven't got anything funny, man. I wish I did.
No, but
just not that guy.
No. That's something much more useful than what we would have ended with.
Be practical today, man.
I like that. It's really helpful. You've been amazing. Thank you. And let's do this again, because it's been incredible to see what you've been able to achieve and continue to do so.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, man.
So yeah, Sammie, founder of Up the Gains, go check them out, man. Some incredible resources, and just loved having this chat. Cheers, bro.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.